Hey there, fellow citizen of the internet. Welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. Today I have with me Mayim. I hope I did not butcher the name. And we're going to try to explore the topic of personal development through the lens of her story. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and then we're going to take it from there. Mayim, welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Hello and shalom, Moses. So you pronounced my name just fine, Mayim, and Mayim. This is my Hebrew name, and it means water. And as we were speaking about earlier today, your name Moses is also a Hebrew name in the Bible, and the Hebrew way to pronounce your name is Moshe. And my name means water, and your name means drawn from the water. And that's kind of like what you're doing right now, right? Because you are interviewing me about my personal development lessons through my life. So it's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. And so just right off the gate, the term personal development, I think it's been beaten to death at this point. Everyone and their cousin has some sort of personal development thing to say, and that is true to a certain extent, right? Because I believe that every single person's story truly matters, and one of the reasons I started this podcast is that one, I like to share my story, and I believe that every single person's life story has many lessons that you and I can take away from. So, and I want to explore that through the lens of your story. So, a quick overview of who who you are today, and then we're gonna try to navigate how you ended up where you are today. Yeah, who are you? What do you let's say bring to the table, quote unquote, as the young kids say today? Why should someone listen to you today?
All right. Well, you said a lot of things. So I'm going to first want to comment about the first thing you said, which is that the personal development world has been butchered. My personal opinion on personal development is that it came from religion, and I probably believe that because I'm a religious person. I'm Jewish, and but in all the religions, it's about developing yourself personally in a spiritual manner. And when I talk about spirit, I'm talking about things that are invisible. So, not your hair or your clothes or your body weight or your muscles, but the things that are invisible about you, like your character, your personality, your goals, your habits, all those things. So that's how I define personal development. And so, where I am right now in my life is probably the most important thing that I believe about me is that I'm a mother. I have 7 children of my own, and I also take care of 2 more that are adopted slash inherited. We didn't adopt them. It's my husband's mother's. She adopted them, and we're taking care of them in her older age. And I homeschool, so very busy homeschooling. And also, I've been married happily for since 2003. I don't know how that's a long time, right? 20, about 20, 21 years, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
21
I'm
years.
terrible in the math, so some over 10.
Yeah,
So
21 years. 2024 minus 3 is
yeah,
21.
yeah,
So,
21 years. Yep, yep,
so
yep.
I've been married for 21 years, and it hasn't been, necessarily easy. But, and, several times in my marriage, I've thought about divorce. And but my faith has always and circumstances have always kept me in, and I'm very happy that I stuck it through because I think it's an achievement, especially with divorce rates being 50% or more these days. And you know, one of the goals of personal development is success, and success doesn't just mean money. Of course, there's the big three that people always talk about: health, wealth, and relationships. And So I'm a naturopathic herbalist and holistic life coach, and I'm also an entrepreneur. So my whole life is all about health, wealth, and relationships because of that whole combination. So for that reason, I believe that people should listen to me if they want to, of
Yeah.
course. It's a free country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what what is your definition of success? You touched on it, briefly, and you mentioned that success is not just monetary gain. So I'd like to dive a little bit deep and try to figure out how do you define success?
Yes, yes, very good. It's a great question, and I'm actually writing a book on that topic. Not success, but it's a life coaching book, and I think that's really what life coaching is about: is how to achieve success, but not just in one area, but in all areas of your life. And oh my God, I wish I had the notes to my book, if I can remember correctly. I've divided it up into four categories, right? We want a I think true success should be in four categories. The first is health, personal health. How do we feel? Free from chronic disease and pain and having energy and things like that. So health, personal health. That's bodily health. It's also mental health, of course. And then the second category would be relationships. And I'm trying to prioritize. It's not necessarily the exact order of what you should prioritize. I'm just trying to hit all the categories. But if you don't have health, though, I feel like it's kind of foundational, but not necessarily the most important. Meaning that if you have health, it's easier for you to pursue the other areas, right? Because you have energy, because you're not in pain. And so if you don't have success in health, you really have to go back to health. It's kind of a game stopper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now let's go to the next category, relationships, right? You could have a bad marriage but still be in great health. You could have bad social relationships with everyone around you, your husband, your parents, your friends, your children, but still have a very successful business and be very wealthy. So really, relationships are very, very important, but they're not necessarily a game stopper, although they very much could be. And also, I don't think we can enjoy the other areas of our life without good relationships. And relationships, again, means um, I think you could also include having a good relationship with yourself, making sure that you accept yourself and that you forgive yourself and that you give yourself all the opportunities that you would want to give to another person that you love. You got to love yourself first. And only after you love yourself first can you properly love your spouse or your partner or your children or your family member or your friends or even your business. Because if you don't know how to love yourself, you don't know how to treat a valuable human being, the most valuable human being in your life. How is that not yourself, right?
Right.
You are the
Right.
most valuable human being in your life. You will have your back more than anyone else will. So you got to love yourself, okay? And so and then the rest will follow. For me personally, my order is I got to love myself and take care of myself. Next, my next order is a business as a mother, and I think this just comes to me intuitively, not because I choose it. But my next relationship that I care about the most is my relationship with my children, because I feel like they are vulnerable and they need someone, so someone needs to be there to have their back. Third would be my husband, and that's because he would be fine with or without me, right? And I mean, maybe less happy, sure. I'd be probably less happy without my husband, but we can both survive without each other, which is why, even then, even in a marriage, I believe you have to prioritize yourself first. Prioritizing yourself doesn't mean anything selfish, but it does mean setting proper boundaries,
Right.
you know, and things like that. So and then of course we have other family and friends. So we've got health, we've got relationships, and then the next one I would go to is um, your career, finances, or business if you're an entrepreneur. And I think your education would fall into that, of course, because that's usually the goal of education is to enrich that part of your life financially and career wise or business wise. So that is the other, measure of success. Usually, when people think of success, they look at that only. But I know very, wealthy entrepreneurs who were once billionaires, but very unhappy because they didn't, they were missing in one of those other areas of their life, usually health and also relationships.
Hmm.
And then finally, I think the fourth category, I've divided it personally into four categories, would be the personal and spiritual. And you might categorize, loving yourself in the personal slash spiritual category because you could do that. It could be either in relationships or it could be in personal spiritual, and that
Hmm.
is, I think that's where probably the core of personal development lies is in this personal spiritual category. Although it does, of course, affect the other categories as well. So, did that
Okay.
was that a good answer or was that okay?
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no.
All right.
Yeah, there's no perfect answer to that, but I think that that was a very good one. And so before we dive even deeper than we have already, where were you born? Where did you spend the first, let's say, the first 10 years of your infancy?
Well, actually, the first 3 years of my life was in the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines in Zambales. It's a small province, starts with a Z, Zambales. And around 3 years old, or it could have been older, it could have been up to 5 years old. I don't know exactly remember the age, but we moved to California,
Hmm.
San Diego, Sacramento, and then finally San Jose, where I spent most of my life until we moved to Texas in 2014 with my husband and my fourth child was born at that time. So four of my children. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a journey. What do you have a fond memory, like a go-to memory that you hang on to when you refer to your infancy? And by infancy, I mean somewhere between, well, being born, of course, and like 10 years old.
Yes. In the Philippines, um, one of the things that I remember is dancing in the rain and just the freedom of just simple joy. Like I just remember that being such a fun and exhilarating time. And then I remember another time when I was dancing in the rain, just going in the rain, just kind of like like you know, laughing and enjoying. It was warm rain, of course. And the other time that I did that was in college. We went to a some kind of retreat for school, and we were staying in a lodge, and it's for my political science course actually. And again, it was started raining. I think we were trying to have a bonfire or something like that. And it started raining, and one of my friends, he's Native American. His name is Telequasalo, and he was very inspirational, and he just started, dancing in the rain, going like this, and like it just kind of brought out my inner child again, and that memory of dancing in the rain and how much fun, just the simplest joys in life could be. That aside from like food or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, those are
Yeah.
also very fond memories. Like eating delicious food when you're a child. First, I think that when you're younger, you have different taste buds, and so very simple foods are amazing to you, and these complex adult foods that's like, oh no, that's yucky. And when you're older, you want the more complex foods, and you're not, I my opinion, you're not as happy with just a plain whatever. And I think that's an analogy for our life too. It's not just our taste buds, but everything in life as adults, our needs and our desires and what makes us happy becomes more complex compared to when we are children. And, it's probably by design, probably God made it that way, but so that we would strive for more, as human beings in life. It's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be seen as a good thing as long as we don't let it, um, you know, take away our appreciation for the simple things in life, especially
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
simple things in life are free and it's what everyone can attain. And I think that's one of the problems is that when we get older and we start seeking the more complex, advanced things, it's not bad. But I think what's bad is when we start looking down on people who are in places in their life or times in their life when that's all they have. And there's nothing wrong with them enjoying those simpler things. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, when you're talking about dancing in the rain as a youngling, I had a memory come to mind. I was probably 7, maybe 8, and we were also playing outside in the rain. Not only were we playing, but gonna, it's gonna get a little bit on the gross side, but we were so there was like a cement paved, really nice and smooth, right, to play indoor outdoor soccer. But when it rained, it gets really really slippery, right? So what we would do is you take off all your clothes, right, and you run as fast as you can. You get about, let's say, maybe a quarter or halfway through the field, and then the rest of the way you slide on your butt cheeks, right? So,
Wait,
and
it's
we would,
cement? You
yeah,
said cement?
cement, cement,
Oh,
cement,
that
very
sounds like
smooth.
it hurts.
No,
Really?
no, it was nice and smooth.
Okay.
Nice. Maybe cement is like the wrong word. It's like the same
It's
material as
smooth
like a,
cement.
yeah, very, very smooth cement that if you put water on, it was enough to slide around, or at the very least, for a 6-year-old, it was nice and smooth. So we would just run, and then you flap on your butt cheeks, and then you try to slide, the rest of the way. And it's one of the most just amazing memories that I have, just out of the many amazing memories that I have of the childhood. But it kind of gets gross. Like, I remember specifically one time I'm sliding, and I look to my right, and there's like a nice trail, of someone's poop, right? And it's like,
Oh
oh
no.
my god, yeah, yeah.
You slid
But
into that.
you're
But
like
that just made
6.
the whole experience funny, so it didn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. You're like 6, 7, maybe 8. So you just, and it's raining. You're outside. You're having fun. It's like, wow. Okay, the simplicity of life in that particular moment just came down to rain and sliding down, and I was just so full of joy. So that's a good segue into what are some of the things that you think play a major factor in adulthood, a major factor in robbing our joy, right? Things that shouldn't necessarily rob our joy, but they do. So, for example, for me, right, one of the smallest things that robs me of joy that has no business doing so, driving. I love to drive. I really, really love to drive. But when I get stuck in traffic, right, or when someone cuts me off, it's like I find myself just getting super upset for absolutely no reason. I should just be like, well, if you cut me off, I guess it is what it is. Not the end of the day. No, it's not every single time that happens, right? But my patience aren't as good in those times as they should be, and they rob me of joy when I could be just fine. I could just let the person do them, right? As long as they're not a risk factor for to me and those around me. So what are some of the things that you see that just play a major role into like stealing people's joy in adulthood?
Okay, well, I would talk about something very specific in my life, which is something that threatened my health, my marriage, and even my business in some ways. definitely robbed me of joy. And it was when we had a change in our family structure, when we actually when we started taking care of my husband's mother's children. It was very hard for me to transition, um, to incorporate them into our family. They were older. I think they were 8 and 9, or no, they were both the same age. I think they were both maybe 8 years old when they came. Could have been 9. I don't remember exactly the how old they were, but that was that. I It was very hard. It was very stressful. It was a very stressful time because I homeschool and I was expected to homeschool them also, but um, they had other needs, beyond just regular textbook education. And I think for my children, because I raised them from the very beginning, they knew how to do things. They knew how to uh, do basic things and advanced things in terms of education and everyday normal life. And these children had, like, hard backgrounds, and it was very hard for them to adapt, and for us to adapt to them,
Yeah.
for them to transition to the level that you would think they kind of should be at their age and stuff like that. And for me, because I already had a very full plate. I already had, like, you know a nonprofit business, a regular business, my coaching business, my homeschooling the other, 6 children. The oldest one was in college, but he did it online from home. So I was still helping him keep accountable. So, homeschooling 7 children, my 7 children, and then incorporating them. And I was feeling like my husband was not supporting me, even though it was his family's, children. And so that definitely robbed me of joy. I threatened divorce, very much considered. Also, I waited too long. I waited too long for to reach out and get help. I mean, I would tell my husband about my problems, but I don't think he understood how much he could do and how much he should do. And I felt, because I'm a religious person, I felt like this was my duty to take care of these children. It's not a choice, which I've actually gotten rid of that thought that I have to do this, because when you feel like you have to do something, you're more inclined to have hard feelings about, like, oh, I have to do this. I don't want to do this. I have to do this. So one of the things that I'm a life coach, but I also have a life coach, because you should, like, everyone, if you really want to attain, like, higher levels of success, you will seek mentors, right? That can look from the outside into your situation and give you unbiased advice, from a third party. And when my life coach helped me to understand that I don't have to take care of these children, that I choose to, not because of religious obligation, but because my faith has given me a heart that desires to take care of them. That really was one of the keys to helping me be at ease again, not be so angry about my situation, understanding that I could change my situation at any time, and that it was my choice. It's very empowering. And I got personal life coaching for myself. We got marriage coaching for my marriage, for my husband and I. And I love marriage coaching because we've been to therapy before. We've done marriage, therapy with a licensed psychiatrist, or was it psychologist? Might have been psychologist. I don't remember. But marriage coaching was much different. It was focused on our goals and coming together as a team, just like a coach for an athletic team would
Mm,
do,
mm,
right? Like there's
yeah.
players in the team that don't get along with each other. And you're like,
Mm,
hey, we're one team. We want to succeed. We got to play together. We got to
yeah.
learn
Yeah.
how to get along. Focus on the game, the gameplay, the strategy.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that the coach is giving. Focus on this so that we can succeed because we both want to succeed, and we both love each other, love being married to each other, but it was just this hurdle in our marriage that, it was affecting my health too. The stress was affecting my health. I got hypothyroidism because I was
Mm,
just trying to endure for the longest time without having real solutions. And I was just trying to like brute force stay in it without any help.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
life coaching and marriage coaching really, really helped me with that. And it was is a lot of just mindset shifts in my personal life, in our marriage, and things like that.
And so how can you elaborate on the role you were touching on, transitioning the mindset of I have to do this versus I choose to, for those that yeah, for those that are in that space, right, where it's like I have to, right, and they haven't quite made the transition. What is the role, would you say, the role that resentment plays when you feel like you have to do something, or you're doing something simply because you have to, not because you choose to do it?
Well, it's about how you feel when you choose certain words to think about your situation. So my words were like, oh, let's take it to a different situation. Um, let's say as a as a student, you could say, oh, I have to wake up at 8 a.m., 7 a.m. tomorrow. I have to turn in this assignment. I have to do this. I have to do that. And like your whole college or high school or whatever can just be like a miserable experience,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Or you could be like, oh, I have time. It's hard to say, oh, I get to do homework today. It's kind of hard to say
Mm,
that because you could say
right.
like, oh, hey, I have time to do my homework today, and after that, I can watch this movie that I want to watch, or go out with my friend, or
Mm, mm,
watch, whatever, it's
yeah.
just when you talk, it's like talking to someone, right? It's like, what's the difference between, um, me telling my husband, I'm like, honey, I need you to take the trash out today. You know, can you please do it? Like just kind of upset, nagging. Or I can say, hey, honey, can you take out the trash now? And after that, we can watch that movie that we've been wanting to watch, And then, what's the difference between him and, the way he responds to me? One is like, oh, she's upset with me. Like, oh,
Mm, mm,
gosh, like I want to stay away from her for a while,
yeah.
today or something. Yeah. The other one is like, oh yeah, yeah, I'll take out the trash right now, and we can go do that.
Mm, mm,
It's so the motivation. So you can feel that, you can understand that when I give you that example of my husband. We could give a very similar example, like to my children, like, okay, do your homework now. Hurry up, get it done. You're always goofing off, right? Or I can say,
mm,
hey, like let's get your homework done as soon as possible, and then we can go out, go to the park, or have a delicious snack. My kids like love snacks, like have some ice cream, little scoop of ice cream, something like that. And which one, how will they react depending on,
mm,
you know, what I say.
right.
Well, you can talk to yourself in different ways as well, right? It's the
Mm,
same
mm,
thing. It works. We completely understand it when we're talking to other people. But you don't understand that our thoughts is us talking to ourselves, back and forth to ourselves. Like I'll have a thought and I'll talk back to my thought. I'll be like, no, I get to do that. Like, no,
mm,
I don't have
mm,
to do that. I don't have to do it if I don't want to. No, I'm not goofing off. I want to do this. And ADD is not, a curse. It's a gift. Like
Yeah.
I'm more driven than other people to do multiple things. I've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I'm always like doing a bunch of things. Like I can never like, writing 4 books at the same time, 5 of them. And I'm like, I used to be like, oh, I'm terrible. I can never finish a book. I can never do this. I can never like, I always like do things halfway and then move on to other. Now I'm like, no, this is my superpower. I do multiple things at the same time,
Mhm.
not necessarily because, maybe it is because I have a short attention span, but because there are so many things in my life that I think are valuable, and I don't want to neglect some things. And if it takes
Mhm.
longer overall to finish one thing because I want to do 5 things at the same time, then so be it. I accept it. And um, if I want to focus on one thing, usually what I'll do is I'll reach out for some kind of accountability. And one of the ways, like as a business owner, one of the ways I do that, like I do podcasts, right? I do podcasts with
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
different shows, and so one of the things I'll do is I'll get on a podcast. And I'll say, hey, what do you want to talk about? And then they'll say, oh, I want to talk about this topic. And if that's a topic that that I really want to talk about, I'll say, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to create a short ebook on that topic, and then let's discuss it. Let's discuss the topic. So that because I have
Mhm.
accountability with another person who I'm going to do a
Yeah.
podcast with, I'm more likely. I saw that in myself. I'm more likely to finish a task, and then I'll have a completed project because I already have someone there waiting for me to do that. So that's one way I can force myself to, to finish a task. But other than that, it's like okay, whatever. I have 5 books that are underdeveloped, and I finished one book last week in just a few days. It's okay. It's just how life is.
Mm. Wow. So this might be like a segue, but I am one of those people that's like I
Most
cannot despise.
entrepreneurs are. Most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs are. That's why a
Right.
lot of entrepreneurs that don't even finish school. It's like let me. I cannot have attention for this. Sorry.
Right.
Go
Right.
ahead.
No, 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 no. You're good. You're good. Because it's like, yeah, you want to do many things all at the same time, and there's only like we say like 24 hours in the day. So when you're forced to stick to one thing,
Only
it's like, okay,
16.
fair, fair. Yep, yep, yep. So not even 24 hours there. Well, I guess we can like dive a little bit more deeper into that. So, for example, I'm in the process of writing a book, and then I also at the same time decided to turn this whole podcasting thing into a business, right? Because I've been doing podcasting for a
That's
couple of years
awesome.
now, so I'm like, I'm gonna turn it into a business. But then at the same time, so it's like you have all these tentacles, all these different things that each one of those
Yeah.
things alone is a full-time job, and it's like who
It could
are
be.
you
Yeah.
to undertake all of these at the same time. So for me, what would be a set of actionable steps, or like one or two actionable steps that I can actually implement right after this podcast that would facilitate my pursuance, if that's even a word, like how I pursue all these different projects, because it is true that I'm genuinely interested in completing all of these things, right? It is also true that I have to focus on one thing at some point. It feels like, because otherwise I partially advance, barely advance in each one of these things when I try to do them all at the same time. Somehow, though, if you look back a year, maybe 2 years, it's like, okay, I was actually able to do quite a lot all at the same time. But it takes much longer for each one of those things to come to fruition. So for someone, it sounds like you are in this road, you've been through this road, and you're succeeding on multiple domains. So what is a practical guide that you can give a youngling like me to that I can actually put into practice?
Yeah. Well, I think the committing to another person has been um, a really key part of it. So if I have
Mm,
a client that's waiting on something, that I'm more motivated to get something done. If I have a podcast that I'm scheduled for, I'm more motivated to to get something done. Also, hiring. I mean, it can be hard for people who, if they don't have a lot of resources, but hiring someone to help you do a portion of it can also
Mm.
get you going, because they're gonna be bothering you for you to
Right.
do your
Right.
part so that they can do their part.
Mm. Mm.
Another thing is, so I have both. I have a to-do list of things that don't have a deadline, but if they have a deadline, I put it on my calendar. And I look at that calendar like every single day, like several times a day. So if it's
Mm. Mm.
if it's super important, I put it in the calendar. If it's not as important, I put it on my task list, and I prioritize that way. So what I do is, if it's scheduled, I definitely do that. But if it's not scheduled, then I do that when I have time, and I understand that.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
also meditation, prayer and meditation in the morning, and I pray. I could pray something like, help me to discern what are the most important things that I need to do today, and then just kind of being still and silent, and then the thoughts will start coming in, and God will, I believe, start reminding you of things that are important. Or it could just be, it could be a reminder. Maybe it's not super important, but something that needs to be added to that to-do list. So it all, in my opinion, the way I see life is that there's no such thing as ordinary. Everything is a miracle, and
Mm.
every second of our lives is meant to be, and is a sign. The word for miracle in Hebrew is banner or sign. And so
Mm.
the word sign or banner, it could be anything, right? It could be someone reminding you of something. It doesn't have to be a miracle. It could be a thought in your head that comes up, and you think, okay, well, that's a sign. That thought is a sign of something. What do I do with this sign? Do I do it now? Do I push it off? But our thoughts are a connection between us and ourselves, our past, our relationships with everyone in the world, the things that we've learned, and also our connection to God. That sometimes our thoughts can be any one of those. We don't really know what the source of that thought is. Sometimes it's coming from fear. It could be coming from anywhere, but the thought is important. And we could we can look at that thought and then decide what to do with it. I don't really believe very much in randomness. I believe the
Mm.
world is too ordered and too perfect and too miraculous. Like, we shouldn't even be here. Logically, scientifically speaking, the odds of life are ridiculous. It's ridiculously low. Like, we're impossible. Life is a miracle. Life, every single second of our lives, is a miracle. And so when you walk with that kind of awareness, I think that I live with no regrets. Every mistake that I've made is just a building block in my personal development, you know, in my spiritual development, everywhere. And I think when you live with that kind of sacredness in your life, it can give you joy, it can give you um, peace, just understanding that our steps are ordained. We may have plans and we may have thoughts, but what actually happens in our lives, that is a divine miracle. That is ordained by God.
Hmm. Hmm. Life as we know it is a miracle. It's kind of crazy. We're 40 minutes into this and we've barely even touched on the holistic healing part of it, which is something that you would definitely bring more to the table on. So I would definitely love to have you back. And I'm trying to respect the hour here. But can you touch a little bit on? Man, we really don't have time. So two things. Okay, one, the the process of, because you mentioned that you have two extra kids, right? That you had to adjust to, and they had to adjust to you. Because I had to go through that, right? In the sense that, excuse me, new parents, new culture, new language, new everything, right? And they're trying to adjust to me, and it's like, oh my goodness. a lot, right? So it's kind of
Go
like
ahead. It's okay.
this requires a lot of time, but if you can
It's okay.
condense it as the most, if you can condense the answer here, it'll be good. For the parents that are thinking about bringing in other kids, one, two, doesn't matter, culture doesn't matter, but they're bringing kids that they themselves didn't raise, right? What are some of the attributes or qualities that they need to be aware of? So for example, one of the things that I know from experience, is overused, but patience, right? On both ends, right? Because there's a lot of adjusting that needs to be done, right? And firm boundaries and consequences when those boundaries are crossed, right? So what? Well, take it away from there.
Well, I think two of the guiding principles that I have um, in my parenting style is number one, and this is how I deal with all my children.
Mm,
Number one, I am not here to be your friend. Okay.
mm,
I don't
mm,
care if you're my friend. I don't care if you like me. Um, I don't care if you love me, but you have to respect me because this is a skill that they will need in the future in every situation that they go to, which is that they have to respect people, whether they like or love them or not. People that they don't like, people that they don't get along with, people that they disagree with. You have to respect them. And
mm,
so it's okay if my child disagrees with me, but it's okay if their feelings are hurt. I also let them um, say things that are hurtful to me sometimes. I let them correct me and get mad at me sometimes, but I evaluate it. I say, okay, is there value to what they're saying? Like if they're critiquing me, like let's say one of my children is mad at me and they say something to me like, you don't do this, like, and I'll say, like for example, cleaning the floor for some reason. Um, After I started telling my children to do some chores, they would critique me and they'll be like, "Oh, you don't clean the floor very good." And I'm like,
mm,
I could get mad, or I could say, "Hey, then that means you can clean the floor all the time now." Yeah, I could take
mm,
it as an
mm,
insult, or I
mm,
could be like, "Well, you're so much better. Go ahead." You know, I still clean the floor though, but sometimes they do critique me. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Like, so I don't, I
mm,
or just whatever. Like, I let them lash out at me sometimes, and then I evaluate. Does this does this they just yelled at me? Let's say, okay, one of my children just yelled at me. But let me take a look at what the words they said. Let me not only just react to the tone of their voice, but their actual words. And that's a skill that you needed when you're a grown up, right? Like
mm,
people are gonna get mad at you sometimes, and you got to be like, okay, you just yelled at me, but I'm gonna divorce your yelling from the message that you're saying, and I'm gonna try to see if there's something that I can learn from your message without getting upset. And if there is, then I'm going to be like, huh, okay, well, maybe I didn't like the way they said that, but I can respond to that. And I remember um, uh, one of my clients for this company that I work for, um, he's one of their executive level staff, very brilliant man, very smart, very he's from Europe and a certain European country, and I've known him for a very long time, and the way he talks to people can sound very condescending,
mm,
but I'm like, I've known him for a very long time. This is just how he talks to people. So I don't
mm,
like sure, like I don't think am I really going to change him? I'm not going to change him. I, I'm not his life coach,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had a different role in the company. Um, so you know, so I'm just going to take what he says and I'm going to get the lesson from it and I'm going to, go ahead. So I don't need to be their friend. It's okay if they get mad at me. But the result is that they do love me and that we are friends and that we have a lot of fun. But I don't focus on trying to be their friend. I don't
mm,
focus on
mm,
trying to get them to like me. What I do focus on is our family's success and their personal success. And I always, when I rebuke them, I'm rebuking them about, why this is not good for our family. We need to do this. You need to help. You need to do your chores because we as a family, work together and it's not fair. How would you feel if only one person did the chores or only two,
Mm-hmm.
I try to, when I rebuke them, I try to frame it as this is good for either our family or it's good for you. Like you need to stop this habit of yours because you will not be successful in the future if you keep this habit. And so I think because I operate that way and I try to guide them and discipline them that way, they know that I have their best intention in mind, you know, and I am acting as their life coach,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm not just trying to boss them around, make them do stuff. I want my children to succeed in life because when my children succeed, I succeed, because I see them as an extension of myself.
Right. Right.
So, and that's not just for the adopted children, new children. It's just my philosophy of parenting in life, altogether. And then specifically for, I'd say for children that you don't that are new to your family, it's kind of the same as the marriage coaching where we were taught, the wife comes from one family, and it's like they're coming from a different team, a different
Mm-hmm.
sports team with a different coach and a different culture, a different
Yeah.
state, and then the husband is coming from a completely different place as well. Maybe one's from New York and one's from Texas, and like the cultures of those two states are completely different, right? And so to
Mm-hmm.
remember that is that whether they're from a different country or not, they're still coming from a different team, a different environment, and a different upbringing. They might not know what you think everyone should know by a certain age. They might, their team didn't teach that, and so you have to teach that, and that's just how it is, and accept that, and don't expect them to know your team's strategies. They're brand new.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Man, I hate that we ran out of time here. So if well, by the way, I'd like to have you back on a future episode. But as we're coming to a close here, any final words, and also where would people find you if they wanna know more about you?
Yeah, well, I do have, I'm on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Aruka, Arukah. And my main website is aruka.com, Arukah.com. And we do offer both health and life coaching, because part of, having holistic health is, again, all those four areas, health, wealth,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and personal and spiritual development.
Love it, love it. Mayen, thank you so much for coming to the Moses Kabandana podcast. It has been a pleasure having you on here.
Okay, bye bye, shalom.
Bye bye.